if anything happens to you in the course of doing your work, and your employer does not cover, you can opt to sue the employer, because just like I said, it's a mandatory policy to have as long as you are an employer. And an employer, I mean from two people. If something happens, like you remember that case of a guy who was working for a rolling mill. Unfortunately, he fell in the rolling fell machine. In that machine. Yeah, the only thing that was collected, I think, was fingers.
Hi guys, I hope this video finds you well. My name is Martin, in case you're here for the first time. Na sisi ni watu wa insurance. We do civic education as well as reviews on insurance, especially within the Kenyan market. Now, in today's conversation, we want to talk about something, would I say corporate, or what do I say? Yes, I think corporate. Let me say corporate, because it's a cover that is meant to be taken by employers, but you as an employee, you also deserve to know this information. Inaitwa WIBA, Work Injury Benefit Act, is a cover that covers employees against some of these maybe illnesses or accidents or events that normally can harm your body or health when you are at your workplace. So we want to talk about WIBA and at least help you understand some of the things that you are covered as an employee. At least ujue your rights. Usikue maybe something happened to you, ukue job, ukaenda hospital, but because you didn't know that you are covered, maybe you ended up paying for yourself, whereas you have a cover from your employer. So let's have this discussion, and I hope you enjoy these videos. And if you do, kindly subscribe. Is the best way to support our content and our channel, and keep sending us those questions because you help us to create relevant content. So keep sending those questions in the comment section, and also share with your friend, and leave a comment and a like. So thank you very much, and without wasting much time, let's get into the video. Yes, karibu sana Bwana Moi.
Thank you, Martin.
Yes.
And again, to our viewers, we want to thank you so much for the support you always accord us. Today, as Martin have put it, want to discuss something that is less known, especially to anybody who is employed. And you should understand this, that just like we have a third-party cover for anybody driving a personal car, a commercial car, there is also an insurance that is mandatory, meant for the employer, and it is supposed to be taken up by the insurer, no, not the insurance company, but the employer. Any employer,
yes,
yeah, as long as you are operating or you have an operation within Kenya, you are obligated to have a WIBA stroke GPA, or group personal accident cover. Yes. That is why we found it important or noble to talk more about this.
Yes.
But let me start by telling you, or informing you, what a WIBA GPA means.
Before we get into the details of what it is,
all right,
I wanted maybe we start with why is it important for an employee to know this information about WIBA?
Yeah, it is very important because majority of time you'll find that you either get sick,
yes,
you get an accident in the course of doing your job, but you end up paying those expenses from your own pocket. Yet an employer should be able to cater for that, either from his pocket if he doesn't have the WIBA, or it should be paid by a WIBA insurance cover.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you don't have this information, it means It's not. It doesn't happen automatically.
Yeah. If you don't know,
If you don't know, it slides.
Yeah, you will end up paying.
Yes.
Yeah, because of your possibly ignorance. But it is important for our people to know that it is mandatory policy for anybody who is operating in Kenya to have WIBA.
Okay.
Yes.
Now let's get into what it is.
Yes. So basically, WIBA is a protection plan. WIBA, we call it WIBA stroke GPA. It's usually a protection plan for the employees. In the event something happens to them in the course of doing their work, and there are those things that happens. Possibly you deal with an institution that manufactures paints, manufactures what we call pesticides, that deals with flowers, and those institutions have implication to our health. So if you get sick, you are supposed to be paid by that
company,
that particular policy. Yes.
And if they don't have that cover, it means they are supposed to, you can sue.
Yeah, if anything happens to you in the course of doing your work, and your employer does not cover, you can opt to sue the employer, because just like I said, it's a mandatory policy to have as long as you are an employer. And an employer, I mean from two people.
Okay, so even hotels,
they are supposed to have, because anything can happen. We've had cases where you are in the kitchen and there is an explosion from gas leak. So that one would leave you and your family possibly devastated. That is why it is important for any employer to have that cover. So basically what that covers, that insurance policy covers, is number one, it covers any accidental death or occupational death. By occupational, I mean you were doing something, and what you usually do on daily basis, out of doing it repeatedly, maybe you deal with pesticides or paints, it affects your lungs, eventually you die. That is what we call occupational death. So it is, you are supposed to be paid. So number one is accidental death or stroke occupational death. We also have accidental disability, stroke occupational disability. We have temporary disability. It's also supposed to be covered in that. We have medical expenses. We also have last expense, and we have terrorism. It also should cover terrorism. So if and majority of institution, what they request for is a WIBA that covers to these limits. If it is death, any death, whether occupational or accidental, you are supposed to be paid by an insurance 96 months or 8 years of your gross salary. So assuming you are paid monthly 50,000, so that is roughly 600,000 per year. So that particular cover, WIBA, it should pay you 600 times 8. That is 4.8 million.
That is in case of occupational death.
Either occupational or accidental
death.
Yes, and it is also important to say this: it should cover 24 hours. So whether you are at home or at work, it should cover. So WIBA doesn't really cover only when you are working. As long as you are an employee in that institution, you are covered. So that is 96 months of your annual gross pay. It also covers 96 months of your gross salary in case of disability, either accidental or occupational. It covers temporary disability up to a limit of 104 weeks. Yeah, if you are paid, let's say weekly, a particular amount, you multiply that by 104. That is for temporary disability. And then we have the medical cover. It covers up to a limit of 100,000. The WIBA also covers what we call last expense up to a limit of around 150,000. And finally is what we call terrorism and political violence. You are supposed to be paid any damages incurred in that process, or any expenses, could be medical expenses, you should also pay. So this particular cover is purely for employers. So even if something happens, the person who should report to insurance is
the employer.
The employer. And then we remit the money to the employer, and the employer pays the family. And that has so many benefits for both the staff and the employer. For the employer, number one is that it's more of a moral obligation. So that if something happens like death, you don't, or disability, you don't just tell your staff, you, because I no longer need you, go home. So that one fulfills what we call moral obligation. Number two, it helps the employers in retaining staff, because when you realize that your employer cares so much, you are not likely to move to another company. If you understand that if something happens to me, my family is well catered for. Also, it is also beneficial for employers, because it's also an expense. So while doing your taxation, that's something called a tax deductible, because it's an expense you incur every year. So it also reduces your
the amount that you pay in terms of tax.
Yes. And for the employee, as we've said, there's nothing much, there's nothing as important as understanding that your employer really has your welfare at heart. So you are likely to stay.
Yes.
Because it's just like understanding that you have pension.
Yes.
After I'm a week, my employer puts up something for me. So that is why it is very, very important to have, and it is important for all the employees to understand this. If something happens, like you remember that case of a guy who was working for a rolling mill. Unfortunately, he
fell in the rolling
he fell
machine.
in that machine. The only thing that was collected, I think, was fingers. So for the family, if something like that happens, you don't need to pick up fights with the employer. No. It's very obvious that if you are an employer, you should have a WIBA. So whatever amount the WIBA ought to have paid, the employer should take up that responsibility. So if you go to a court of law, there is a very simple question that is asked. Did you have the WIBA cover? If no, then you pay that entire amount. It becomes very, very expensive for
even the company.
For the company. It can drain you. If you have 2 or 3 cases, and unfortunately you didn't have the WIBA cover. So it's an important tool to have as an employer. And if by any chance you don't know where to start, we are here to help you. You can reach us out. We shall post our number in the comment section, so that in case of anything, for quotation, for consultation, we can guide you on how to go about it. It's usually very pocket friendly, so you do not need to worry. Just like we have a third party, which is very, very pocket friendly for a motorist, the same is WIBA.
Yes. I think there's something that we mentioned, that this cover only pays for eventualities that come while you are working or doing things that are related to work. I think it's also important to mention what it doesn't cover. So that now you don't go to the hospital, not because you're employed and now you say the company is going to pay.
Yeah.
So I believe there are things that WIBA doesn't cover.
Oh, of course, WIBA, what we know, it can be customized depending with preference of the client or the employer. There are those who strictly say that we want our WIBA to cover our personnel only when they are working. When they are not working, they can be covered by what we call GPA or Group Personal Accident Cover. So that Group Personal Accident Cover serves two purposes. Number one, to cover the time when you are not working, and number two, to cover those individuals who are not on payroll. We are talking of those people who are casuals and part-timers. So for them, you take up a GPA or Group Personal Accident Cover.
It's good that you mentioned that, because when we were starting, you said there's a WIBA and there's the GPA.
There's GPA.
GPA there.
Yes.
So the difference is one, WIBA is for people with contract with the company, or permanent.
A permanent and pensionable, those with contract.
Yes.
But for the casuals and the part-timers, they take up a cover we call GPA.
So either whether you are part-time or you are a permanent, the company should have either WIBA,
yes, or GPA.
Or GPA.
Yes. There's no escape for that.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we can allow our viewers to send us questions, because maybe there are a few things they would want us to highlight.
Yes.
Even you mentioned about how much maybe probably would someone be paid for a temporary disability. Mtu amekuwa affected maybe for a month.
So we for temporary disability, you are paid as per weekly pay.
Okay.
Yeah. So we to the most extreme, we look at a scenario where someone has been in possibly a hospital bed, or he's in bed for maximum 104 weeks.
Okay.
So what you should understand is that any insurance cover is not really meant to profit you. If you are hospitalized for 2 weeks, the cover pays for 2 weeks, but limited to 104 weeks. So if you can't claim 104 weeks, whereas you have been in the hospital for 2 weeks. Yes.
Is there a minimum period?
1 week.
1 week.
1 week. Yes.
Okay. So it's not like 2 days then you go and claim.
No. In case of anything else, we have the cover also covers. The cover takes care of expenses on medical.
Okay.
So the only thing if you go for 2 days. Of course, if you don't have a medical cover, because again you can't claim from 2 covers, you must choose which one. If something happens and your employer possibly have taken a medical cover for you, you use your medical cover. Then the WIBA cover doesn't pay. Or you can choose to utilize your WIBA. However, you will find that because WIBA has like 2 or 3 parties, it may take some time, unlike your medical cover or GPA. Yes.
Maybe as we wind up, would you kindly take us through the claim process? I'm an employee. I'm working, maybe I'm a driver of a company.
Yes.
I got an accident. Who should, like we have the medical covers, normal medical covers, you can initiate that process.
Yes.
But at this maybe point where I have an injury out of, I'm driving, I get an accident, how should that process be?
It is very simple. Number one, you notify the employer, because from where we sit, any staff is not our client. The staff is not the client. The principal client here is the employer. So you report to the employer reports to us, and the only thing you are supposed to facilitate the employer with is a hospital. If it's something very serious, the employer automatically will notify us. If it's something that was temporary, you just forward the receipts. If you paid cash, because it does reimbursement, just like medical, or if it's something huge, we can be sent the relevant documents, because the only person here we can trust is your employer and a doctor. Yes.
Okay.
So for that one, actually the employer should ask that question: how do we claim? Not the employee.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
The employee's work is just to notify the employer, not the insurance.
Well, the employee should inform the employer.
Yes, employer is our client.
Yes. Wow. So I hope you have gotten something out of this conversation, and at least now you know your rights as an employee.
Yes.
If something happens to you when you're working, at least you can be compensated. And that I think is very important, because if you don't know that, you maybe end up taking care of the costs.
Yes, yet you are not supposed to do that.
Yes. So I hope you have some more questions. I believe so. Make sure that you write those questions in the comment section. We'll be able to pick them up and do a video for you, because we want to help you understand these things.
Alternatively, what I'm thinking, in that number that is written down there,
yes,
you can always reach us.
Yes.
On that platform, our number is there.
Yes.
You feel free to share with us anything.
Yes. Wow. I hope we gave you value for your time, and I hope to see you in the next conversation, in the next video. If you haven't subscribed, it's the best way to support our content, because we don't charge this information. Subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, and turn on the notification bell, so that every time we have a new video, you'll be among the first person to be notified. And until we see you in the next video, God bless you, and
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.